Okay, we belong out to this fishing club. And the ironic thing about this is a different club, different area, is the club's probably 12 miles away from the lake. This lake is a strip mine lake. It's a T-shaped lake. And there's no houses around this lake. It's just nothing but farmland and woods. And so usually me and my son, we do a lot of night fishing for bass. Sometimes walleye, but mainly bass. Well, on this occasion, I went by myself. And so I got to lake probably about 4 o'clock because it gets dark out here right now about 4:30. And I'd been fishing, wasn't doing too great, wasn't doing too bad, nothing major. And about 10:30, I came around. If you picture a T, a capital T, I'm coming from the right side, going towards the long part of the T, just around past the bend, starting to go down towards the channel. And I heard a growl. Now, this night, of course, there's no frogs or no crickets, but there is nothing. There's no owls. You're not hearing any coyotes. It was above freezing. It was dead calm. There's a light fog on the water because I remember the water temperature was 44.6 degrees on my depth finder. And your temperature is probably mid-30s, I would guess. So there's a little bit of fog on the water and the water only, but I heard this growl. Well, I'm probably 35 feet from the bank because it is a strip mine. I don't have to be way offshore. I can pretty much run right on it. So I stepped down off the deck. I get a 2 million candlelight spotlight. I clicked it, turned it to that area, and it was dead. What I found out later after the fact is I recharged it. It went right to a green charge. You pulled it. It lit for about a second or two and died. So the battery internally is dead. But, that's just basically my luck at the time. So this thing is growling and it's getting more intense. And I had a run-in with something I never seen probably 4 years before, which prompted me to go out and buy a pistol. So I stepped down. I have a Taurus PT 111 Millennium Pro with FMJ's full metal jackets, 12-round clip. I had 2 clips with me. Locked and loaded, put in that direction because I couldn't see anything at this time. Slowly, this thing stood up. There's four boats on the ground turned upside down from people who might use them. Some of them have not moved in years. And a bush. This thing stood up. And what gets me is if it hadn't have growled and if it wouldn't have stood up, I would have went right past it and never known it was there. But it just stood up, so I've got my weapon trained on it. I'm about 35 feet from the bank. It's probably about 15 feet off the bank, just beyond where the boats were. I could see it from the waist up. Guessing, because visibility was pretty good, I would have to say somewhere 600, maybe a little more, 650, 700 pounds. It was 7.5 to 8 feet tall. And I'm pretty accurate on that because I'm 6'4". My boat casting deck is about 1.5 feet, off the water. And I was pretty much just about looking about head level, about where eye level would be with this. It was dark. I'm guessing that it was black, but its face was a lighter color. You really couldn't see any detail in it. And its arms were down by its side. Its hands were basically about to where its knees are at. So it looks at me. We're kind of in a slight Mexican standoff, I guess, so to speak, for about 2 or 3 seconds, and it turns to its left to walk. Well, as it turns, it still had the upper part of its body angled towards me, watching me. And so I'm wanting to put distance between me and this thing. I've still got my weapon trained on it. So I stepped on my trolling motor, it's foot controlled. I turned it left to get away from it. I didn't want to turn it right because then my back would be to it and I would actually start to put the back of the boat closer to shore. As I almost got 180 degrees from it, this thing turned at once, threw its hands up in the air, and I had told you it charged. What it basically did, it didn't run towards the bank. It dropped its hands down. It looked like it was almost running like it did one hop off of like all fours. And what I mean by that is its hands hit the ground with like a big force and its feet were propelled forward and it stopped. And I told you earlier it had thrown its arms down violently. I don't know if it was to turn and propel itself or what the deal was. When this was going on, I spun the boat back around. I still have the gun trained on it. And it had very labored breathing. I had told you it was like it was hyperventilating, but it's like it breathed in through its nose and out its mouth, like, and I'm watching this thing, and I am just literally freaking. Because when it went down with its hands, I didn't know if it was going to pick something up and throw it at me. I didn't know if it was going to try to propel itself towards my boat or what the deal was. But it was squatted with its back almost straight and its chest kicking out, something like you would see a gorilla. And this lasted for maybe 4 or 5 seconds. And I had my gun, like I told you, trained on the genital area where I thought it would be, because I had a 9mm. I knew a chest shot wouldn't be anything if this thing came. But I was looking at the largest mass right at where I could get a lock on. Then it slowly kind of stood up, looked at me, its body turned, started walking away, and it was vocalizing as it left. And I don't mean a big yell. It's like a, like, and this thing was definitely pissed for some reason. I don't know if it was because I was there and it was hunting. I don't know anything. But I will tell you, I feel 100% confident if I did not have a gun, I'm not sure I would be here today. Because I'm fully 100% sold it knew what that gun was, because when I had that gun trained, everything changed. It was ready to walk away. As I was turning away, it's like my back, I was starting to go to it, but I was still had my arm off to the right, and it charged. And once I immediately spun the boat around, I mean, this thing covered 10 seconds in the bat, or 10 feet in the bat of an eye. And I have no doubt if it would have propelled itself, if it wouldn't have been able to get on my boat, it would have been close enough it could have grabbed something and got in my boat. It just kind of stood there. It was like real labored breathing. Like I said, like it was PO'd, and I am trained on, because I had turned the boat back around. Now this time, I'm starting to go out towards deeper water. I didn't, because I let off the trolling motor. I was faced on it, but my perpetual motion of the boat was taking me away, which was fine with me. And I was trained on it, and it went about 2 or 3 steps. It had its upper part of its body turned and was walking, and then it just kind of walked away. It started to go down the shoreline, but kind of up at an angle. And the way that it goes, they're real steep cliffs from where it washed away, on the strip line. And they're probably 80, 90 feet tall. But there's no way a person's going to climb it with the dirt or anything. And this thing just walked off, and it went right into the shadows. I could hear it. And I knew it was moving away from me, but I couldn't see it anymore. After that, it just kind of turned and walked off. And I'm not ever going night fishing out there again by myself. Never. I'll take my son or anybody else, but I will not go by myself.